So when you think of crowd control heroes, you probably think of Adelaide or Moloch, both of who are great heroes that I use a lot. But in reality, I don't think a lot of people realize it, but the best crowd control hero in the game is Cieli. She's kind of overlooked as a paid hero, as a faction leader. She had her day in the sun in DI there for a little while, and that's part of probably why a lot of people think of her solely as a spell nuker, which she is for sure. But assuming you have manual control, she also is amazing at crowd control. She can actually crowd control two separate groups basically permanently in the right setting. And the reason a lot of people don't realize it is her skills here are kind of very complicated and poorly worded in the tooltips, let's say. First of all, you got the every 3 arrows she casts an alt. And Flame Eruption and Chain Lightning are both 2% HP damage, and that combined with the fact that the arrows can do quite a bit of damage themselves once you get the skill leveled up in the spellbook shelf. But what's overlooked often, I think, is part of her 4-star ability is that each of the 5 ults she can cast will trigger the corresponding elemental to do an empowered version of their alt. So every time you cast Tranquil Rain, which isn't that great of a spell, really, without Gem's shield added to Rampart units on it, but it triggers Ice Elemental, assuming that it's alive, and in your party, to instantly cast True Ice Wall, which you can see here lasts for 10 seconds. It reduces magic resistance by 50%, damage reduction by 20%, and this is the really handy. It'll be cast no matter what. If your Ice Elemental's alive, it doesn't matter if it's crowd controlled to all hell, it's going to cast True Ice Wall. So that means you can have the regular Ice Wall up. You can even have 2 True Ice Walls up at the same time if you spam Tranquil Rain. And then the Earth spell that she has is Petrification, which is another great crowd control spell and also reduces damage reduction. And when you cast that, it makes your stone elementals spit out a couple little extra stone elementals. And you can also mark her with Petrification, as I have here. So I've got a little example run here. It's all melee. And I'll explain, actually. She can actually crowd control 2 groups if they're lined up right, a ranged group and a melee group. But if it's all melee, you're guaranteed going to be able to crowd control, lock them up. They're going to be locked down. The question is if you can finish them off, but in any case, so there is a way to cast Tranquil Rain with water. It was water, air, earth. You want the earth in there because that's more crowd control. Earth arrow, right? So you can cast Tranquil Rain and Petrification, both of which use earth arrow. For Petrification, I usually do earth, air, fire. And it's kind of easy to remember that way because then you come all the way from the right, and then you cast water, and then you go back up, air, earth again, and that'll do a Petrification and a Tranquil Rain. Because if you keep spamming Petrification, after a while, the fire cooldown gets to be a bit long. I have air and earth cooldown mastery on my Cieli. So it works out well to do 2 Petrifications and then an Ice Wall as far as just the cooldowns of the arrows. But you want to change. You can change it up as you're playing, because if you really need an Ice Wall up or Petrification or vice versa. Now the Ice Wall gets cast on whatever the Ice Elemental's targeting. So it's possible it might not hit a lot of things, but it's a wall. So even if some of the units are a little farther back and don't get caught in it, they will walk into it if they start to move forward. Now, even in manual control fights, where the ult is cast is based on the AI. So with a bunch of melee, if they're all in a group, Petrification is going to hit one of them, and it's probably all going to be in range because the Petrify is actually a little bit bigger that she does than normal Petrify spells. It's got a bigger range, slightly. But if there's ranged back there and she decides to target one of the ranged to petrify, then what you can do is redo the battle and using your units and Earth Arrow and whatnot, try and get multiple range to be standing in the same spot or close enough to the one that she's going to target with petrify that they get caught in the petrify. Another trick you can do. Well, actually, I'll add that at the end of the video. But so anyway, if you can get the range caught in that petrify, and then the true ice wall holds the melee, and then you have Earth Arrows being cast regularly on every cooldown, where you can put wherever you want, and then you also have Petrify, the mark spell, where you can put wherever you want to fill in gaps, whether like if the front's getting out of hand or the ripback's getting out of hand, or if something's just a little bit outside of the range of the main Petrify, you can Earth Arrow them. So she's actually capable of crowd controlling two groups, the range group and the melee group. So if you got them crowd controlled, then the issue is just kind of finishing them before time runs out, right? Unless the opposing hero's like nuking you. So, Adelaide does that by nuking with spells. Moloch does that by boosting units damage. Cieli obviously can nuke, but she can also boost units damage. Petrify does DRR. True Icewell does DRR. In addition, you really don't need to mark Petrify in most cases with her. So if your issue is damage output, you can, mark her with a buff spell, like Rush Tactic or Slayer or something. Eternal Inferno here is a great place to use her because manual control. So what I have set up here is a practice group, no machines, no backups, no marked spell, only 4 conflux units, under 7 million power versus a 10 million power Gaelu. I don't know if you've seen any of my other videos, but my Gaelu does not fuck around. Those elves have almost 600,000 on them right there, 47 mastery level emblems on them. And I'm going to do an auto run here just to demonstrate that I'm not, setting up my own strikes, so to speak. And the way I have it set up, like I could just nuke the marksman and the elves. That's why I have the druid there. I have a genie up top that I'm going to have to control for healing. I'm obviously going to have to control the melee. And they have backup units and everything. They're vicious. My chargers also are not known for fucking around. They have full machines, all that. They just steamrolled me. Obviously, I have 4 units and no spell machines, blah, 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 blah. So here what I'm going to do is I'm going to keep track of the active crowd control on the left. It might be off by like a second or 2 here or there, just because it's kind of a pain in the ass to do all that. Especially considering Cieli with the Ice and Earth Elemental are the best crowd control in the game. So crowd control that genie right away. The marksman nuke my Earth Elemental right away. You see here though, before they can nuke anything else, they're petrified. We got the front row here is stunned briefly by the Earth Elemental. Oh shit, what am I going to do? My Ice Elemental is silenced. Doesn't fucking matter. Still cast True Ice Wall because you can't crowd control that. Like I said before, that's awesome. It's amazing. Here I'm getting ready to Earth Arrow the Sharpies, but Ice Elemental's got me covered already. So, throw it on those guys up there. Why not? I got extra crowd control to burn here. Petrify catches some of the backup troops. Stops all of them from charging, really. But that ice wall would have stopped them anyway, which is not on the list of crowd control there for some reason, but whatever. Another true ice wall. Freeze up top. Freeze in back. It's non-stop freaking crowd control. I mean, and there's a lot of stuff happening. It might kind of seems like there's not non-stop crowd control. That's because it's multiple crowd controls. That's why I have this group set up so they were spread out all over. So it's not like you can just clump them all up and keep them in a time stop or something like you can with Moloch. Not to detract from Moloch, he's fucking awesome. I love his mustache, and I love chargers. I think here at this point, just throw out a chain lightning just to clean them up. And again, I don't have a mark spell. I could have Petrify marked. I could have an entire different new team, another 4 units with backup units and machines and yada, yada, yada. You don't even have to... Another thing I really like about Cieli is I'm not a big fan of the cookie cutter faction. I mean, because it doesn't leave a lot of room for leeway, for variety, experimenting your own designs. Are great for PvP, no doubt. But Cieli, you need to bring 2, maybe 3 conflux units with her to regenerate her mana from kills, which there's 2 or 3 awesome conflux units already. If you want to bring a bunch of different utility units from different factions, as I like to do, not, it's totally an option. She is, and even in auto fight, she's decent. She does quite a bit of damage. Those arrow spell masteries are important in the spell bookshelf. Not only do they double the damage, but they reduce cooldown, which means more ults. But the main reason I wanted to make this video is just because I don't think people realize with the true ice wall how that works. And the crowd control is just simply insane if you have manual control. So thanks for watching, and subscribe if you want more.